Hi everyone and welcome to the channel, and welcome to another episode of Learning CAD Sketcher for Beginners, where we're using the CAD Sketcher add-on in Blender and understanding how we can create models and geometry with that add-on. Today we're going to be looking at creating a mechanical assembly. So this is a very simple assembly which we're going to start with. We're going to revisit this and come back to making more complex assemblies. And I've created these three links in here. They're the same sketch, and what I've done is rig these up without any bones or any armature in here to allow movement but still keep these all connected. So if I use the rotate tool, I can rotate this around this axis here, the Z axis, but I can also rotate these as well. So you can see I can rotate around here, and I can rotate this one around here, and they all keep joined together, and we can rotate these wherever we want. So this is the start of mechanical movement and understanding how we can create assemblies using Blender. So I hope you're enjoying these videos, and let's have a look how we will do this in Blender with CAD Sketcher. If you're enjoying these videos and you would like to support the channel, then you can do so via my Ko-Fi page. That's at ko-fi.com/MJ3D Studio. Any donations will be used to help expand the channel. So I'm in Blender. I've already started a new document. We're looking to make mechanical movement. That requires parenting joints in our scene between our objects, utilizing transformation and rotation. If we look at this cube and I transform it, we will notice that on the flyout bar under the item, if I click on that, you can see we've got the location X, Y, and Z, all 0, rotation of zeros, and the scales of 1. If I transform this using the transform tool, and we'll move it up, notice that the location changes on the axis that we move this. So let's move this over here. This transformation isn't applied. This is not the default transformation. The default transformation is 0 across here. When I apply this, this becomes the default transformation. So if I come out to Object, Apply, and it all transforms, notice the origin moves back to the center of the scene at 0, 0, 0. The object stays where it is. So we've moved the object up and then reset the origin. I'm going to hit Ctrl Z. So I've gone back to what I had before. And this time, I'm going to come out to Object and come down to Clear and come over to Location. This clears the location back to its defaults. So if I move this over to here, go out to Object, Apply, and it'll be the location. We've set that back to 0, but we kept the object there. If I move this again to here, if I clear this now, going out Object, Clear, and Location, it resets the location back to X, Y, Z of 0, but remember that we've already applied that transformation. This is important when it comes down to mechanical movement. Let's see that in action by using our CAD Sketcher to create some simple links and attach them together in some kind of very simple mechanical movement. Let's create a new file, File New, General. I want to save it, and I'm going to delete the cube by clicking on it and hitting delete on the keyboard. I'm going to come over to the flyout bar where I've got my CAD Sketcher installed. I'm going to add sketch, and I'm going to place it along the XY plane, this one here. I'm going to now click on the Z, looking down onto the XY plane, and I'm going to sketch something very simple in here. Let's have a look over to the left-hand side, and I'm going to use a rectangle by clicking on it and dragging out a rectangle, like so. Right-click to cancel the tool. Now I've got the Select tool for the solver space select, and I'm going to delete by clicking on this edge, hitting delete, and clicking on this edge and hitting delete. I'm now going to use the arc, add a 2D arc, click on that, and I'm looking for around about the center, which is around about here. I'm going to come up, connect coincident to this point, and come around, draw the arc. If I can't connect coincident to this point, I'm just going to place it close by. So I'm going to zoom in and just come in, place it close by. I'm going to right click to cancel the tool. And I'm going to come over to my tools on the right hand side. So now I can select, so I have the solver selected. This point, shift, hold that down, select this point, and make those coincident. I'm going to take the arc and shift select the line and place a tangency constraint tangent to them, and the same with this arc and the top line, and make those tangent as well. I'm going to move to the right and repeat on this side. So an arc centered, come up, connect to this point here, come round, place it nearby, zoom in, right click to cancel the tool, and select this point, and shift select this point, and make those coincident. Next, we place some tangency against this edge, shift select this edge, tangent, this arc, this edge, and tangent again. So we've got our shape in here, which we can move about. Now, one thing to remember is that this point will be our center point of this object, but we're going to change this in a moment. Let's take this point and shift select this point, place a horizontal constraint in. I'm not going to fully constrain this. I'm just going to add some circles, which are coincident to this point, like so. Right click, select both of these, just select them, and make those equal. That's enough for the time being. Let's leave the sketch. I'm going to press N on the keyboard to hide the flyout bar. I now have my sketch, which I'm going to apply a modifier to extrude it. Now, one thing that I haven't done, if I come back in, I haven't converted this to a mesh. So let's come into the flyout bar, edit the sketch, drop down to the convert type, this one here, drop this down and select mesh and leave the sketch. It shows up in the tree view here as a sketch, and now I can select it, come down, use the wrench or spanner icon, the modifier properties, add a modifier, and we'll come down to the solidify. I'm going to add some thickness to this, so I'm going to bring this around, just add a little bit of thickness. So it's added to that. Let's hide the fire bar by pressing the N key on the keyboard, and now I've got my link that I'm going to use. Now for the mechanical assembly, I'm going to use a number of these links. I'm going to keep it simple and use the same object. I'm just going to make duplicates of this object. So I'm going to select the sketch, come up to object, and duplicate objects. And we'll just place one here. Let's do it again, the same sketch, object, duplicate objects, or Shift D. So we've got a couple of links. Do one more, Shift D. So we've got these three here. I'm just going to take the original sketch and just hide it by clicking on the eye icon. Let's bring this around and see what we got. So we've got all of these here. The first thing I'm going to do is arrange these into my assembly that I want. So I just want to connect these all up together in a row. So I'm going to come over to the move icon, and I'm just going to move this over, and the same as these, and place them into position. So this is a case of just lining these up. And we can use snapping if we wanted to. So we've got the snapping in here just to get them in the correct position. But what I'm going to do is turn my snapping off, and I'm going to eyeball these into position. Looking down on the Z, I can see that around about here, and the same for this one. And what we'll do, we'll bring this one up so it sits on top. We've now got all of these on screen, but if we look, you can see that all of these have a point of rotation in the middle. This point here. This is point of origin or rotation for these objects. It will always move from this point here. I'm going to select all of them by shift selecting them. And these are laid out in the assembly that I want. So I'm going to do some final amendments and say move this over here. Move this down around about here. And what I'm going to do is apply the transformations for these. So if I come over to the right hand side and use the flyout bar and click on item, you can see that our locations have changed, and we're going to come up to object. We've got them all selected, apply, and we're going to come down to all transformations. We see that's zeroed out all along there. And what happens now, if I just close this flyout bar by selecting the N key on the keyboard, is that when we zoom out and select nothing, if we select these, you'll notice that the point of origin for all of these are now at the same point. So we have all those at the same point. That means if I try to rotate, say, this one, by clicking on it and pressing R, then it rotates around this point here, as you can see. That's right click to cancel that movement. So how do I join these together and make them rotate around this point? My first object, the point of rotation, is at the right place. I'm going to stop this moving from this point. So I'm going to come over to the right hand side, use the flyout bar again, come to item. Because this one is selected, you can see the X, Y, and Z here. I'm going to use the lock button here and click on those and make sure those are locked down. I can click and drag, and that locks all those down. Now the rotation, I only want it to rotate along the Z axis, so along here. I can lock those two down, click and drag, just leave the Z. I don't want to scale it, so I can lock those as well. Hit N to hide the flyout bar. So now if I take this one and say rotate it, I can't rotate it along the Y. I can only rotate it along the Z. Hit Control Z to undo that. Let's move to the next object, this one here. Again, I'm going to use the flyout bar. The location I'm going to lock, and also the rotation, again, I'm going to lock. So it's only rotating around the Z, this one here. Control Z that. And hide the flyout by pressing the N key. Though this one can't move, it can be moved by this one when it becomes its parent. We'll show that in a minute. We need to use this circle here as the rotation point. So I'm going to change the point of rotation of this object from here to here. Let's take this one and hide it. It's out the way. Do the same with this one as well. Next, I'll select this object, and I want to move this point to this circle. So the way I'm going to do that is select this edge that runs around here. But the problem that I've got is that I can't select that edge. I can select that edge if I come up to the top and select edit mode. And now I can select this circle here. To do that, let's click on the Z axis, and I have to select all these vertices around here. I've got the vertex mode selected here. I could use the select tool and try to create a rectangular selection, If I can't get those edges there, then what I do is come up to select and use the lasso select, set lasso select, and click and drag the lasso select around there like so. All those are selected now. Now this is where you have to use a shortcut with the keyboard, and it is Shift key and the S key. Hold down Shift and hit the S key. That will pop up this menu. And what I want to do is select cursor to selected. This will move the 3D cursor that you can see in the center here to what I've selected. So I click that, the cursor comes into the center of this circle. We now have to switch back to object mode and then apply a transformation of the origin to this point here. To do that, my object is still selected. Let's come up to object, set origin, and we want origin to 3D cursor. The origin moves from this point now to here. This means that we can rotate this around this way. So we use the rotate. We see we can rotate it around here now. Let's Control Z that. So now we've got this set. So go back and show our first one, our first link, we can see what's happened. So we're now rotating around that link there. But the problem we've got is that if I select this one and rotate, this one doesn't move. To do that, we parent our second link to the first link. Let's Control Z that. So we're going to parent these now. I'm going to first select the child and then Shift select its parent. Notice the colors are different. So we've got a red selection here and an orange selection here. This is the child, this will be the parent. If I come up to object now, parent, and then if we scroll up to the top, we can notice we have object. Click on that. We have the make parent appear down in the left-hand corner. We need to open this up and make sure keep transform is selected. This means that when the parent is transformed, then the child will come with it. Let's click off. Let's test this. So I'll take this now and rotate it. You notice that the link rotates with it. If I click on the link, rotate that, we can see we have got the starts of our mechanical / assembly movement that we're after. At any time, if I want to reset this, I can select all the objects. Let's show them. Well, not the sketch. Let's get rid of that one. Let's just show those two. One is parented. So inside one of these, sketch 1, you see we've got sketch 2. So I can select this one, and it's actually the rotation we want to clear. So let's select them all. Object, clear, and rotation. And we're back to where we was before. Let's do the same with this object. So it's the same sequence. This is the reason why I've selected just the 3 links. Because we repeat our sequence and we get to understand how this works by just repeating it a couple of times. Let's move this across. We're going to work on this link now. So again, select it. Look from the top. And this is where the rotation has to be. The rotation at the moment is over here. Let's zoom in. Come up to object mode. Down to edit mode. We need to select this circle. Let's see if we can get it with the box select this time. So I'm going to try with the box select. And no, I haven't. So I'm going to use the shift and I'm going to box select this one and also box select this one. So I'm holding down the shift while box selecting all those. Shift and S on the keyboard brings up our menu system. Cursor to selected. You can see the cursor sits in the middle of that circle. Back to object mode. We set the 3D cursor. Now we need to move the origin to the 3D cursor. The origin is back here. While this is selected, come up to Object, Set Origin, and Origin to 3D Cursor. That's now the correct position. So this will rotate around here. Like so, that's Control Z that. And now we need to create our parent. So our parent is here. So we need to select the child, hold down Shift, and select the parent. So we've got those selected. Come up to Object, Parent, and we're looking for the object, and make sure the Keep Transform is selected. So ticking the Keep Transform, it remembers for your last selection. Click off, and now what we should have is mechanical link across here. So if I rotate this one, they all rotate, and I can rotate this one and this one. And you see, I've forgotten something in here that I've rotated it around. I've forgotten to add the constraint against the X, Y rotation and location for this. So I'm going to Control Z that and Control Z a couple of times, just put it back in the right position. There we go. So that's back in the right position. So let's click on this object here. So inside here, this one should be selected. So if I come into Sketch 2, this one here is selected. Let's come into the flyout bar and lock these locations. And we need to lock the X, Y, and leave Z as it is. Let's click, hit N on the keyboard, get rid of that. And what we should have now, I'll select one, this should rotate here. We have to rotate this one this way, and this one this way. Missed that, this one this way. That's all working now. I'll select them all, come up to Object, Clear, Location, Object, Clear, Rotation, and we're back to how it was before. So that's a very simple mechanical link that we can use in Assemblies without the need to use any armature in there or any bones. And what we'll do in future videos, we'll make something a bit more complicated with a few more different joints in there. I've just shown you the basic rotation joint, and we can use that in mechanical simulations, assemblies, etc. Hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope to see you in the new one. If you're enjoying these videos and you would like to support the channel, then you can do so via my Ko-Fi page. That's at ko-fi.com/MJ3D Studio. Any donations will be used to help expand the channel. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.